women. They're real. And they're discriminated against. And it's kind of the reason feminism is a thing. Before the era of man bad for existing, feminism gave the term a bad name. It was a movement built on the principle that men and women should be seen as equals in society. No longer would women be around only to clean house, be wife, and make omelet for husband. Now, they could clean house, be wife, and make omelet for wife. Basically, they aimed to have the same freedom as men did when it came to what they could do. In modern days, steps forward have definitely been made, with a few Olympic long jumps backwards, but things are still relatively better than they were before. Kind of. You still have the occasional slip like that one tweet Burger King put out where they're announcing their scholarship program for their female employees, but the tweet opened with "Women belong in the kitchen." We've even had a few stories in the furry fandom where female furries feel like they're singled out due to male furries either hitting on them or just going, "Ew, pussied organism." However, I did poll my followers on both Twitter and YouTube to see what they think about women in the fandom. Fortunately, I received the near unanimous yes I was expecting. Although, when it comes to those who voted no, there is still the inaccuracy between those who genuinely believe women shouldn't be in the fandom, and those who did it to fill their trolling quota for the day. But from the responses I got, I can at least gather that though the majority of furries don't have issues when it comes to the gender inclusivity of the fandom, there are still cases of this discrimination that aren't as few and far in between as one would hope. The reason I questioned this was due to a fantasy of a furry that crossed my computer screen. A furry project that will probably create a little unease in any who happen to be watching. If you find yourself easily disturbed, I would advise either clicking off the video or watching with extreme caution, because I can only describe this as a more gruesome and twisted version of the Wonder Bread guy. Which does sound like a meme, but I assure you, this is far from the case. And even though I won't be showing anything graphic, I will be describing what's being shown as I read through it. So with that warning, let's take a gaze into White Kitten and his fantasy world of W.O.M.B. So, what is W.O.M.B? And why do they have a female delusion report service? Well, W.O.M.B, or the Women's Obedience and Maturation Bureau, is a program set up in a world White Kitten has created. In this world, the dominant species is that of she-males, naturally equipped with a lower trunk that would rival a plumbing pipe in its size. They make up the majority of W.O.M.B staff alongside hermaphrodites. What's the importance of this, you're probably asking? Well, the importance of this is due to W.O.M.B's purpose in this setting. But first, we'll use this advertisement as a form of taste test before getting in head first. W.O.M.B Female Delusion Report Service. Only you can stop the spread of dangerous female delusions. Symptoms include sense of self-worth, saying no to the phallus, reading feminist literature, wearing modest or covering clothing, a belief that touching is inappropriate or wrong. If you see any of the following symptoms, call 155-SEX-WOMB. Keep cunts in their place. Just fucking classic, really. As you can tell, the primary purpose of the program is to take women who don't adhere to the ideal of female subjugation and attempt to fix them, regardless of their age. If that doesn't furrow a brow, the methods detailed through artwork White Kitten has commissioned might just get that reaction out of you yet. White Kitten's idea for W.O.M.B appears to have begun around March of 2013, through a commission of a feline being brought in for processing, a fancy way to describe them being sexually violated. Assuming she survives, it'll still be a few days or weeks before she can be released back into the public, but either way, it'll be one less feminist in the world. There was also April of the same year where he would drop a submission titled W.O.M.B, Female Orgasm Center, a report. According to this, FOCs are establishments that service female clientele, giving them a release for a price. The only thing is, they're illegal because of the Female Orgasm Control Act of 1992. Lesbianism is said to run rampant in these centers that are mostly staffed by skilled masseuses who specialize in female orgasm-centric erotic massages. And just a heads up, typos in the fucking FOC Act of 1982 are probably the funniest things we're going to get out of this. Because not even a sentence later, meat cunts with extensive training in she-male erotic massages are likely candidates for subversion and corruption at a FOC. Females being serviced at the FOC should be considered dangerous subversives. Orgasms taken outside of normal sexual rape can be damaging to a woman's sense of worthlessness and can promote the development of feminism. Light torture and immediate termination is recommended for moderate and heavy FOC users. All execution sessions must be videotaped and cataloged. These girls are irredeemable, and the amount of work it would take to break them of their habits is usually prohibitive unless of very special cases. The rest is a disgusting description of what workers are to do if they come across women who show any signs of the things mentioned in the first poster I read to you. The entire passage is just morbidly fleshed out, and takes any notion of this being just for laughs behind the shed and into a meat grinder. This will make sense very soon, because while these were the stepping stones of the openly misogynistic project, it wouldn't pick up until the release of a comic White Kitten commission simply titled Women's Obedience and Maturation Bureau. The comic opens with a cheetah named Bilia, who will be showing us around Womb Processing Center 392. We're also shown to Sigil, the artist, self-insert, and full-time employee for a company whose job is helping girls find their place. From just the first page alone, no punch is really pulled as we begin to get into the exposition. Girls like Bilia, she used to be a radical feminist, a terrible mind crime, but I helped cure her of all that nonsense. Processing begins with a shower and tagging. After registration, the girls are subjected to a dozen or so group rapes. It's unfortunate, but some girls don't even make it through processing and registration. But don't worry, we make good use of those girls. In comes the meat grinder. By using the bodies as food, we help keep costs low, meaning more girl for each womb dollar. After this torture, they begin work on physical requirements. Did you know W.O.M.B guarantees a 100% conversion rate? Though some girls take longer than others, and in some cases, the best we can do is a plastification process. Now, this should obviously be one of the more horrifying parts of the comic, but it kinda just reminded me of the doll maker from Welcome to the Game 2, and how pissed I was trying to beat that fucking game. Definitely not something to play if you're an anxiety-ridden bastard like me. Anyways, as I was going off tangent, the comic decides to do the same thing, talking about the company's large collection of snuff films that are used for training videos. A portion of the comic I will spare you having to even read. We're later told about how injections, feeding, and forced pregnancy are used to achieve the physical requirements mentioned before. For the girls that don't make the grade, they're food. Also, W.O.M.B pulls out their teeth, which made me question how in the hell Bilia was even talking coherently for this whole comic. Like, that's the only piece of logic here that needs to be fucking questioned. How do I even deal with this shit mentally, you ask? I don't. Also, pregnancy is common, I mean, as you expect. So they just fuck the fetus out of them. I shit you not. Then after all that, most girls are released back into the public, except for Bilia, who had been auctioned off. Then we get this speech from her that's just... I'm not reading all that. It pretty much just says, women, we're worthless. Don't be feminists. No, don't say no to the Wang or the anti-feminists will get you. Also, I've been purchased for 35 grand. Bilia is then pushed into a meat grinder. So that was the comic that put W.O.M.B on the map. Or more fittingly, its creator on a list. So you're probably wondering why I brought up this project to begin with. Surely it's just some comic for someone's horrific fetishes, right? Well, that's the thing. While he pretty much seems to just be a freak who has weird fetishes, there is something to be questioned when you have this kind of material commissioned by one man alone. Like, you know what I mean, right? Like, no one just develops demeaning women and putting them through meat grinders as a kink through the dead of night. And when I'm talking about the pieces he's commissioned, I'm not just talking about this comic. He's commissioned so much work like this. It's so much to the point where he has his own, like, E6 brew site that's just the artwork that he commissioned. And it's almost at 600 posts. And remember when I said that W.O.M.B treats people regardless of age? Well, look no further than W.O.M.B fucking Kindergarten, where you have the expected plot of just sexual violation and demeaning women, this time just with Cub involved. Most who are aware of my YouTube channel pretty much knows that when it comes to people blatantly sexualizing anything meant to resemble a child, that's when things start getting a little more irredeemable. I don't even have much I can go in depth with about this whole thing. I'm sure you can get the message that being misogynistic is bad, but to go this far with it just feels like Like, you just know white kid had to have some bad experience with women. Judging by his lusting for cheerleaders, he may not have gotten over something in high school. And with the whole feminism and lesbian hatred running rampant in his commissioned works, you can kind of just guess that there was a relationship somewhere along the line that just did not end well. Anyways, I went through all this just to make 3 points. Respect women in and out of the furry fandom. Your fetishes are a reflection of your inner person. And rather than schools showing those films to kids about how hamburgers were made, they should really just show them this comic. The vegan conversion rate would skyrocket.